All right, this is the Young Guns podcast number 2. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about attitudes in schools, just with firearms in general. We'd like to give a shout out to gunchannels.com and gunwebsites.com for the support of the podcast and getting rolling. We're just getting on our feet here, so everything seems to be going great. And we've got the same panelists as last week, myself, Caleb, we got Lee, Connor, and Jacob. So we're going to dive right into it. All right,
Alrighty, guys. So what's new? Who wants to go first?
I'm about to start casting for 40, so
Right, so you're a big reloader and you cast
right,
your own
yeah,
bullets and
yeah,
you destroy your brain cells.
exactly. I'm about to be moving up to major power factor, so that'll be interesting. But other than that, nothing too new.
So what's gonna be? You already cast, so what's different about 40? Is it just that you got a different set of molds, or
Yeah, just different mold, and I'll have to get a sizing guy, but shouldn't be any too big of a problem.
right on?
So it'll be exciting.
Where do you get your lead from, Caleb? Just the tire shop?
Yeah, wherever I can. Yeah, I don't mind. But
All right.
anyways, anybody else got anything?
My AR is pretty much completely built, besides putting a trigger into it, so I'm pumped
Sweet.
about that.
What type of AR did you build?
What it is, I had a completely stock Bushmaster A2 style AR, and we traded a gun for a Rock River Arms, like an RTH upper, I think. It's a Predator hunting upper. It's completely flat top, low profile gas block, that type of thing. And then I went and bought, what kind of, I've got the box right here. It's a Burris ARPE PR mount. And it's like a raised forward sitting scope mount that's got a Picatinny rail actually on the mounts itself. And so I could put like a light on it if I wanted to do some night hunting or something like that. And then I bought a, what was it? It was Bushnell 3 to 12 by 40 AR tactical scope with a bullet drop compensator on it. So, and then I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about putting like a Geisley trigger into it. I think that's what I'm gonna do because I really want that crisp, clean trigger. So, might as well just go ahead and get it out of the way. But besides that, I mean, that's all that's new, really.
What about you, Jacob? I know you're talking about your long range stuff.
Yeah, I did some long range shooting at my new range this week. I shot actually 960 yards, so got to cross that off my list.
Right on. Did you get a pretty good group or just?
It was like a 3-foot square gong, so I don't know the group size. I didn't actually go down range, but I hit 5 out of 7 shots at that distance. Hit the gong, so.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome. What gun were you using?
That was my Remington 700. It's a 308 20-inch barrel.
Right on. So, and I know we were talking about this a little earlier, but you hadn't done too much long-range shooting before this?
Right, so the only other time I've shot the gun was 2 other outings, and those are both just 100 yards. One day I was zeroing the rifle, and the other day I was just getting a feel for it. But other than that, I hadn't really shot it much.
So what's your attraction to the long-range stuff, and like how did you get into it? Like what made you buy that long-range gun?
Well, I put a scope on one of my ARs, and I really liked it. And then I liked the math and like the science behind it, learning the drop and just how different bullets act at different distances and stuff. So it's all very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's definitely like an art.
Yeah.
Art
Jacob,
and skill.
Are you hand loading everything for your rifle, or is it just regular out of the box ammo?
So as of right now, my friend works for a reloading company, and anything that is not to spec for their company, so if the round is scratched or just doesn't look, I guess, right aesthetically, they put it in a box as seconds and stuff, and so he gets to take those home. And so I'm basically shooting a bunch of 147 grain leftover ammo that they had sitting around. So that's what I'm shooting for now.
Results with that?
It's not the best stuff, but I mean it's free ammo, especially for 308, so I can't complain.
Hey,
And
any free
then-
ammo is the best ammo.
Right, and then I also have I think close to like 350 rounds from Freedom Munitions, and those are 168 grain. Half of it is the Bota Hollow Point, and half of it is AMAX. So I'll be testing those out pretty soon as well.
Sweet. And what was like the range setup that you had? Because not many ranges go out that far, you know. So how'd you get that going?
Right. I'll try to post picture. Yeah, post a picture on screen share. But the range I shoot at, the Silhouette range, it has 15 lanes basically, 15 shooting tables, and there's gongs anywhere from 200 yards all the way out to 960 yards. And then on special occasions, they open up the 1,000-yard plus range because they have to close down a road. But then on special occasions, you can shoot well past 1,000 yards.
Sweet. And is this like, so it's just like a expansive desert, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a desert range. I'm trying to find the picture right now, but it's basically a covered area, and then you're just shooting into the rolling hills of the desert of Las Vegas or Boulder City.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I wish we had something like that out here in Georgia, but you pretty much got to shoot from hilltop to hilltop out here, at least in the
Yeah.
northern Georgia part, because it's mountains.
Well, down where you shoot River Bend at, they've got a 500-yard range. So I mean.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I would like to use that. You got to be a member though, but it'd be nice.
So did you and Caleb, you and Connor went shooting today, right? What'd y'all do with that?
Oh, just did some drills and stuff. Had a little fun competition down in the field. So it's good. I like practicing on days like today too when it's cold, because it's good to practice when it's sucky weather, because they're not going to cancel a match because it's cold outside. So it really helps you get acclimated to that. So had some good practice runs. Practiced some headshots. Did a few hard cover targets. Been meaning to work on. Still got a lot of stuff I need to work on. Hopefully I'm going to work on sometime this week, because I've got a match coming up this Saturday. It's got 4 classifiers and then 5 other regular stages, so it's going to be a pretty big match.
Now you have your own range, right? So like.
Yeah, we shot in my front yard.
Okay, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, to a certain extent. No, when we shot today, I figured out I'm not as bad as I thought I would be after not shooting competitively for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I figured out that I don't suck with a pistol, which actually kind of surprised me.
Right, with your gun, yeah, because you know it. That's
Yeah,
good.
with my gun, yeah.
Right, that's good,
My
because you
AK-11.
can just pick it up and go right back to it. That's
Yeah. Well, even when I would shoot your Glock, I mean, and your Glock's almost like a Franken gun almost. You've got all kinds of parts and pieces put into your gun. But I can pick your Glock up and do all right with it.
Yeah, it was fun. We only had 3 targets set up, but we had some neat little drills going on. Headshot drills, reload drills, all kinds of stuff. So it was cool. What you, Lee? Anything new?
Let's see. Let's see. Tax returns coming in. Just got paid, so I'm about to buy a lot of stuff. So I ordered my BCM upper for my AR-15, and that'll be here on Monday. And that was a sick deal. You got the free bolt carrier group, and they also have a thing where you can get a free bolt carrier group and muzzle device. So that's a good chunk of change right there.
Yeah, I know. As soon as mine comes in, that's when I'm going to order.
So I'm really excited about that. I've pretty much been selling away all my inexpensive guns, and I went from 10 guns to 4 expensive guns. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna build this. It's got the key mod rail, the BCM key mod rail, on a 14.5-inch barrel. So we'll see how that goes. The cool thing about their key mod rail is that it's pretty popular right now because it's just really lightweight. They make it out of a magnesium alloy, so it's got the rigidity that you want, but it also doesn't weigh a ton. So it'd be pretty cool. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
And you can get. Doesn't a lot of the companies for attachments? They include a key mod adapter so you can mount stuff to a key mod rail.
Right. So certain companies have specific things. Like if you want a light mount, they'll have a specific key mod attachment. But you could also get rail sections that come in short sections, so you can put rails just where you need them and not.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely something. I mean, I don't think I'd be putting anything on my 3-gun rig, but it'd be nice to have that option. So.
Yeah. What you said you've got a 14.5-inch barrel that you ordered?
Yeah, 14.5-inch, and I got the muzzle device pinned and welded. I thought a lot about that because it's going to be my first AR, so I didn't know if I wanted to get the 16-inch, because it's not really that big of a deal. Going up, you don't really gain that much,
No.
and just have the ability to switch stuff out. But I doubt it's going to be my last one, so I'm going to have another platform for that. So.
Well, I actually on my upper, I think I've got an 18-inch barrel. Yeah, I've got 18-inch barrel with a 1 and I think it's either 1 and 7 or 1 and 8 twist. I can't remember. But my flash suppressor is not welded on. It's just pinned or whatever. And
Right. So you could easily change that out.
yeah, and that's my next big buy is going to be a suppressor. That's going to be my next big buy. I talked to the guy at our local gun shop. He said he could hook me up with a 308 suppressor for about with the tax stamp included. It'd be about $600.
That's not bad. That's really not bad. And that's the way to do it too. Get like that 30 caliber thing.
Yeah.
So you can use it for 223 and all that other stuff.
Yeah, because I've got a Savage Model 10 in 223. I want to look into it, but I'm not sure if this works. If I could just buy a new almost upper receiver for it almost with a new barrel and just drop it into the same stock basically. I'm kind of curious, but make it in 308 instead of 223.
Have any of y'all shot with suppressors before? Because I know, Jacob, you worked at that machine gun range, but do y'all have suppressors there too?
Yeah, I could link a video, I guess. I've shot a couple suppressors. We had a lot of MP5s that had suppressors on them, and I've shot a couple other guns with suppressors, handguns and long guns.
Yeah, I've shot some. I mentioned it in the last show that we did, but every 4th of July I go to this guy that cuts our hay. He sold his medical business for a bunch of millions of dollars, and basically all he did is went out and bought a bunch of guns, bunch of full autos, bunch of suppressed, anything and everything under the blue moon. And so when we went over there last time, I think he had a suppressed BAR. That was probably the coolest gun he had there, and completely custom deal. But he had that, and then he had some M4s that were suppressed, a Galil, an AK, 74 and 47. And
so then, how quiet do these guns get? Because I've never been around suppressors. I've never shot a suppressor. So
if you're not shooting subsonic ammo, because for a suppressor, for the the famous like psh, psh, psh noise that you're gonna get, you have to shoot subsonic ammo. Because even if you're not shooting subsonic ammo, the bullet's still moving at a supersonic speed. So yes, it'll be quiet when it leaves the suppressor, but after it gets out of the barrel, it's still gonna make your crack. But it's not as loud. It's just you still get the crack from it. But if you shoot subsonic ammo, it's completely quiet. Like you can shoot without muffs or plugs, whatever you shoot with.
Well, that's the thing, you can shoot without muffs with supersonic ammo because it eliminates pretty much like the purpose of a suppressor for me. My minimum requirements for one would be that it eliminate the muzzle
crack
at least for
at the muzzle or whatever.
That didn't need earring protection because that'd be the whole point of having a suppressor.
What I've learned
that or hunting.
Yeah, my uncle owns Rock River AR, and he built a 300 Blackout upper for it, and he's got a 308 suppressor that he uses, and the ammo that he loads for his 300 Blackout, all of it's subsonic, but it can still shoot out to 200, 300 yards, so that's cool. So I think that's kind of the benefit of having that 300 Blackout round. But
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think I really want a suppressor next. That'd be my next big buy. Besides the trigger, but
yeah, I'm not too big on the idea of suppressors. I mean, I'm fine for other people owning them. I think the only reason why I would have them is because I shoot a lot in public areas, like in national forest lands and that kind of stuff. So there'd be people like hiking, there's people fishing, hunting, that kind of stuff, and everyone's there using that land. And I don't want to just be like, if someone doesn't like guns or whatever, or they're not into guns, I don't want to be like, making huge noises and that kind of stuff just for, out of politeness to other people, just because it is public land. So I think that's to the extent that I would want that. So it's pretty low on my list.
Yeah, and I completely understand with that. Basically, the only reason why I want one is because I want to be able to. Well, I mean, part of it's the cool factor. Hey, I've got a suppressor. Not many people can say that. And
well, more people are starting to be able to say that now. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over time,
very
people
true.
start to realize that.
Very true. But yeah, and I think I have to look back on the laws, but I don't think it's legal for like large game, but as of like pigs, coyotes, and like.
No, well, you know they passed that in Gainesville or in Georgia.
Oh, they did? Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't know if they had
the,
passed it
the
yet.
bill last time, the big carry, the big gun bill we had go through last summer that like
Oh, okay,
passed
that
a
was
lot
in
of
there.
the. Yeah, that was in there hunting with suppressor, so we can hunt with
Oh,
suppressor
okay.
for anything pretty much.
See, I knew before that we could hunt like small. I don't even think small game.
It's varmint because they're not considered game. So,
Yeah,
but
varmints.
because then at that point you're not hunting because you don't have to have a hunt loss and things like that. It's not
Yeah,
hunting, so you're not hunting with suppressor. You're
yeah,
shooting pretty
exactly.
much.
Yeah, but that's one of the main reasons why I wanted one, so I could like coyote hunt, do whatever um with that. But I will say the suppressors that surprise me the most sometimes are like 22 suppressors. Those are like
That's the funnest thing to have.
dude,
Is 22
they
suppressor.
are.
So
Um,
quiet.
the guy that I go to every 4th of July, he's got a fully automatic suppressed 1022, and you can throw a 100-round drum mag on there and just go to town, and it's literally like you can have a conversation with the person next to you. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. There's definitely that cool factor, and I think there are some practical applications maybe inside the house or something if you ever do have to use a firearm inside of a closed building for whatever reason, and you might not be wearing hearing protection. I think there's some value there. I think that the biggest deterrent to me though is G-Webs was talking about this on the Gun Channels chat is the fact that there's a tax stamp and it's $200 and it's not that big of a deal, but I would rather spend that $200 towards getting a better product or whatever, plus the fact that there's a registry for it. It's just a little bit of a turnoff for me. So there's that.
Yeah, I saw it. I think I read something where they were reviewing that. Caleb, I don't know if you've heard anything about it.
I haven't seen anything on it. The ATF is.
I think or Dad told me something that he read somewhere
No,
online.
I haven't heard anything about anything
Um,
like that. It'd be
I
really cool
mean,
though if it did get taken off the registry, because then suppressors are very simple. I mean, pretty simple to machine. I mean, you could literally just go to a CNC shop and be like, hey, here's you can make up a CAD design for them and give it to them.
yeah,
It probably only costs like $100 or something like that to make. So, I mean, maybe more than that.
yeah,
Maybe 100, $200, and they can make you a really awesome suppressor, and then you
yeah.
come pick it up a week later and you're done. You got an awesome can. So.
Well, the guy that I was telling you about, Chris Milligan. He's the local machinist in town.
Mhm.
And, he's a fantastic machinist. Like, if you've got a problem that you need like something machined for you, go for it. He makes AR-500 targets. I don't know if he sells them online or not, but he just takes forever to get stuff done sometimes. So, but he's made several suppressors and registered them and all that. And he brought some over last time we shot with him. He had like a 223 suppressor, I think, and that was pretty cool.
It's definitely cool knowing people who do that. But
Yeah.
it looks like, Jacob, you got that picture up about your range?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can see it, if it's
Oh, yeah,
showing.
we can see it. It's showing up.
Okay, so right under the horizon line, pretty much dead center in the photo, there's like a small shadow, which I could draw on the photo for you guys. But anyways, way out there, basically at the horizon line is where the target is that I'm shooting at.
I think I see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Awesome.
Are you talking about? Let's see.
What kind of scope are you running right now?
So that's a Remington 700 308 with a Vortex 6-24 first focal plane.
Oh, okay.
Sweet. And that's that's almost this picturesque Southwest like range. People like to think of the desert and that kind of stuff. You got like the pure blue skies and just nothing for miles and miles and miles, so you can shoot out. That's awesome.
Yep, and each one of these hills that you guys see, they all have different targets on them. So each one is ranged, and they all have some sort of steel gong on them.
How far out is that from like wherever you live? Because like you live in the city, right?
I live kind of towards the edge. That's probably 15 minutes away from my house.
Oh, that's awesome having something like that close.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, like I know the farthest I'm able to shoot down around here is actually on my on like our family farm that my grandparents own, and I call it mine because I practically live there. I'm there pretty much every day. They're like 2 minutes down the road. Like I used to bike a lot, and I'd bike to their house and back. But I ranged. There's a spot. They've got a really long driveway that wraps around their house, and I ranged a spot from the top of their driveway down into the bottom corner of our pasture, right at I think 550 yards.
Right
And
on. That's
but
awesome.
yeah, but it's a stretch. I'm shooting over a pond, a dam, the garden. Like I'm shooting probably over like 5 things that probably shouldn't be shot near. So I'm kind of hesitant. I haven't done it yet, and I don't think I will, just due to the fact I'll be shooting over a dam. I'll be shooting over some stuff that I really don't want to even have a possibility of hitting.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so let's get into what we're talking about this show, which is going to
Yep.
be firearms on college campuses. Excuse me. So at the beginning, I think it'd be interesting to talk about, how to actually get a pulse on what the community feels about firearms. So that's not kind of a difficult thing to do because you can't. I mean, I guess you could go ask each person, hey, what do you think about guns, or come up with an online survey. But it's really difficult just to say my school likes guns or this school doesn't like guns. What do you think about that?
Well, we were discussing this a little bit before the chat started. I think the easiest way to do it would be, well, it wouldn't be easy, but it'd be pretty accurate data. Would just be to go around and poll people face to face, or like you said, you could do an online survey, and just have like 1 or 2 questions on there, and be like, one, how in general do you feel about guns, and then have like a 5 options, like I really like them, they're pretty cool, neutral, I hate them, and I'm like terrified of them, or something like that, and then have another question, be like, how would you feel if people of the proper, who feel the proper requirements were allowed to carry on campus? And by proper requirements, I mean the same thing as the state requirements. And then it'd be how would you feel safe, really wouldn't care, or it'd make me angry or scared or something like that. And then send that to all the students, and it'd be really cool to send it to staff too, because that'd be if you could get staff behind you, faculty, they can have a big pull for your college, on campus issues like that.
That's the huge thing. I think it's staff because, for the most part, I'd like to think of students and kids to not have that much experience. So it's almost like a blank slate. I mean, maybe you're slightly opinionated one way or the other, but I think for the most part, people are relatively open-minded. I think it's the university faculty who have had years and years and years of developing an opinion to where they're going to be promoting ideologies, and it's not really coming from the students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I know at my school, they are very anti-gun. The staff and the president and all of them, they're anti-gun, and so it's hard to get pro-gun topics and stuff discussed at school just because they don't want that on their campus.
Well, what makes you say that? What makes you say that they're anti-gun? Have they publicly come out and said it, or
Yes. So, for instance, at my school in Nevada, you can carry on campus if you have a written approval from the university president and the university police chief. And the police chief has come out publicly and said that he will not sign any approval, no matter who you are, because he does not believe that civilians are trained as well as police officers.
Huh.
So that's not even regardless of the fact that it's a college student, but just the fact that they're not a police officer?
Yeah, so he won't sign anyone. He won't approve of anyone.
Man, that's crazy.
And then you see his argument, really, in some cases that might be true, but most people who carry are going to go through the trouble, to train and, be prepared for that kind of to carry.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just a bunch of people going to the gun store, picking up a gun, and be like, okay, I'm ready. And it's,
Exactly.
not
And
not
in
shooting
Nevada,
it.
you have to there's a shooting qualification just to get your CCW, and so we're already having to jump
Oh
through
yeah, so that's already on top of that. So
carry on.
that's just delusional, because that's crazy. Because I mean, what they qualify once a year, maybe twice. I think twice, once every 6 months is like the average or something like that for
Right.
officers. And it's not even that many rounds. It's like 20. It's like 50 rounds, I think, something like that. It's not a lot.
And you
it's
can
not
easily compare the rate of accident incidents between concealed carry license holders and police officers, and it's like concealed carry license holders don't create accidents, at any higher rate than police officers do. And I think that in fact is actually lower
Of course,
nationally.
I will say that kind of could be skewed too, because police officers are going to be putting themselves in situations where they might have to be using their firearm.
Oh, of
That's
course,
their job.
completely.
So,
They're,
but yeah,
they're two different things.
but still,
Uh,
good point.
Yeah, and then the other thing that you said about how not everyone's people who pick up a firearm typically are very knowledgeable, or they like to be knowledgeable and go out and get the proper training. But at the same time, there are people in states where there isn't a training requirement that do it and they carry firearms, and it's not like those states have like a abnormally high, statistics showing that there's like a bunch of accidents or negligence happening. I think that training is very important and it's helpful, but across the board, it's not like people are shooting themselves all the time.
Yep.
What
Also,
about the students, Jacob, at your school? If the faculty is anti-gun, do you have any like vibe on what the students are thinking?
It varies. I've noticed because I went to school in northern Nevada as well, and I've seen that just because it's Las Vegas and it's a bigger city, people tend to be anti-gun, and that's just because they're uninformed and it's all foreign to them, and so their only knowledge on firearms is what they've seen in movies or on the news or whatnot. So they don't really know anything about firearms. That being said, there is a large like ROTC group on my campus, and there's also a lot of like ex-military people because there's an Air Force base here in Las Vegas, and so there's a lot of those people, and they are all pro-gun, but I guess it's mixed, but the majority would be anti-gun.
Interesting. For me, my school is a very small school, and my school also has a very large ROTC detachment, Army and Air Force, and those guys are all pretty cool about that. But it's easy to tell too. I think that I see tons of people all the time walking around with like 511 stuff, or like they got like a hat with a patch on it or something like that. And you can usually tell which way they feel about things like that, even if you don't talk to them. But it's surprising for me because it's a small school in a small town, and I always came up with the idea of saying that, oh, colleges are very left-leaning and they teach people to be anti-gun and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I've run into tons of people, and they were very open-minded, and if they weren't shooters, they were, open to going shooting. So I think that was really cool. And I've gone out to the range with tons of people who had never been around guns before, and they weren't scared of them. They were interested. So that was very eye-opening for me.
I'll comment some on my university too, just how the guns are received there. Luckily, I'm fortunate enough to go to like a military school. It's one of the largest in the southeast, and so you have a lot of Corps members there, people who are in the Corps, or even commissioned students, and so most of them are pretty, they have to shoot guns. It's part of their job, and they're mostly okay with it. I don't think I've met a single cadet who is like anti-gun or anything like that. Or I guess I haven't heard them say anything like that. Most of them receive it pretty well. And then the students seem to be, it's in the mountains in North Georgia, so all the local people are like, hunters or stuff like that. So that's already affecting it. So mostly pro-gun, but I mean, there still are some kind of laws. Like back when I was talking about that bill they passed last summer here for all the concealed carry stuff that got passed, like carrying in bars and churches and stuff like that. Along with that was there was something there about campuses, and before that had passed at my school, you technically weren't allowed to have a gun in your car. You weren't even allowed to have it on campus. Like if you were parked on campus and it was in your car, that was apparently you would get in trouble for that. And I'd heard from some students, because I asked some people about it, and they had told me that they had been told by officers on campus themselves that, hey, we're not going to go around looking for it because we really don't care, but we're just going to let you know that if something else happens and for some reason we have to go in your car and then we find that gun, that's going to get added on. That could be like a charge or whatever added on to you or something like that. So it's kind of like loosely enforced, but now you can have a gun in your car on campus. I don't think it has to be. I'm pretty sure it has to be in a locked container. If I'm not mistaken. I haven't checked into it really.
That's what it is. A lot of states is like if you can't have it on campus, you gotta have it in a locked container, unloaded, that kind of stuff. But at least that's something, right? At least that's better than
right. Which is funny though, because in the center of the campus we have a huge field. It's called the drill field, which is where all the cadets do drill. And there's people, and they're out there with M16s, doing drill. Of course, they're unloaded, but still, it's like you have freaking cadets in the middle of the field with M16s, and yet you're all touchy about, people having guns in their car.
But that's always been the biggest difference. That's why I think it's cool about our generation is that for the longest time, firearms were associated with the military and police, and I think that's what a lot of people still think of it that way. But we have tons of people our age who are into guns. They have nothing to do with the military. They have nothing to do with law enforcement, yet they're still as into guns.
Mm-hmm. And then we have a shooting range on campus, and I was actually talking to one of the other cadets, an older cadet, that I actually try to get in the chat sometime. But he was telling me that I thought it was only for cadets only, but he said something about how if you were with someone who was like, certified to be on the range, or whatever, you could go and use it. but they actually no one uses it much anymore. It's in indoor pistol range. But what's really bummer,
That'd be really cool to get like maybe a club or something together that would, get the proper stuff done to the school, and you could start that up so you can actually get a lot more people interested in,
right?
like open up their avenues of what they can do. So like even if if you just put up signs like, oh, we have free handgun introductory courses, think of all the people who had never been around firearms or something.
Oh God, yeah, that'd be insanely popular. But we do have a civilian air rifle marksmanship team, which is like it's really cool. It's not really my cup of tea. I've looked into it, but it looks really neat. I'm glad we have it. It's kind of air rifles, where you're standing still and they like put you in braces, and like the rifle's like strapped to you pretty much. And they have those giant gloves that you support the rifle with, and it's like bullseye shooting. They measure the groups in thousandths of an inch, stuff like that. And it's all from shooting standing still. Which that's something that's better than not having any kind of shooting sport on campus. Then we used to have a combat shooting team that was for cadets only, which is very similar to USPSA, but it was like I guess in the whole Southeast, maybe national. It was all the military schools and stuff like that competed in that, and it was just them. And it was kind of similar to USPSA. Like I said, they used like their Remington 870. They used a Beretta and then like an AR or something like that. And but they actually cut funding for it just recently at our school, which is a really big bummer. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and like you said about just getting classes and stuff for students, when I was working at the two stores I worked at, we tried to get classes like that because we had our own gun ranges and we had firearms and we had tons of ammo on location. And so we wanted to be able to do like a first-time shooter type thing just to get people into shooting and just get them familiar with the guns and just so they can get a feel for what it's like. And there were just way too many hoops to jump through. Just the school wanted so many documents filled out and just you had to get approval from so many people and everything. It's just very, very difficult to do something like that.
Yeah, because any other club, it's not that hard, really, from what I've heard. I actually have a friend who started a club, and all you gotta do is just get enough participants and figure out a place where you're allowed to be that they let you use at a certain time, and they're good to go. But I guess as soon as you introduce something that could be, potentially, firearms can be dangerous. So anything safety like that, it gets crazy, like you said.
Exactly. 'Cause usually you just gotta get one instructor.
Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, usually you just have to need like one like professor and instructor to vouch for you guys, and you just need about like 10 to 20 students, and you can have a group or a club on campus. But anything that's liability involved, it takes a lot more.
Yeah,
more
like the college is like, oh, we don't want to lose money. We don't want to get sued. So that's all that's one of their main concerns is money.
I think something like those programs that could just get people introduced, though, would be awesome. And there's always that aspect of liability, like the hoops to jump through. But even if it isn't like necessarily through the school, if you and some people want to start like a group together and put up signs or something saying like a new shooter's thing, you can put up those signs, and as long as it's not through the school, it's just like an out of school activity, right? So I think that would be helpful too.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be something kind of you could do like that. You could say, hey, we're gonna have a shooting club, but it's gonna be off campus, and you say we'll meet, at this building on campus, and then we'll all carpool to this range or to this piece of property, and we'll have our club or whatever. That'd be a really good idea, actually.
And that's something we could do individually. Just ourselves.
Right, yeah.
We could just start it up ourselves and just decide to take 5 people and just teach those 5 people, and then the next time we take a new group of 5 and just start spreading the word slowly like that.
I think that's something that could actually that's totally grassroots, since that's something that's totally doable. Like that's what, like one weekend a month, even like one Saturday a month. That's nothing, or maybe one Saturday every couple of months.
Yeah,
So,
I could totally do that. I might have to look into that, actually. That'd be really awesome.
Yeah, we just found something new here. All right, so Jacob, does your school? I guess you said it's anti-gun, so it probably wouldn't. But does it already have any types of like firearms clubs or like shooting teams or anything like that?
No, so there's nothing shooting related at all. No air guns, nothing. The school I went to in Northern Nevada, UNR, they do have a air gun shooting team, and they are pretty. I've heard good things about them, but it's all just the air guns with like the pellets and stuff. It's like no center fire guns or anything like that.
Right on. Well, I guess that has to do with the fact that your administration doesn't really like it. But anyways. What about security? So we wanted to talk a little bit about campus security. Obviously, most campus security people have firearms, or there's a police force that's attached to the school or something. So what's that situation like where y'all are, and does that make you feel more or less safe than the fact that they have firearms?
You want to go first, Jacob, or you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Sure, I'll go.
Oh, okay.
So my school has there's Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, which is the police for all of Las Vegas, the whole area, and that's a huge police agency. And then there is an offshoot of them that's just on campus, and it's the school police, and they're armed. They're just like the regular city police. So yeah, they're completely fully armed with firearms, tasers, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, at my campus we have our own police force. It's like even have our own squad cars, and it says, University of North Georgia. Well, yeah, University of North Georgia is what it is now. They had a merger recently. University of North Georgia Police or whatever is what it says on the cars, and so they're full-time officers. And actually, I am acquainted with the daughter of the previous police chief of our campus, and I was talking to her the other day. She's also in law enforcement, and she was saying about how, like, I was saying how, how laid back I think it'd be working on campus, but she said there's really a lot of stuff that goes on that you don't hear about because they don't let it get out, that crazy stuff that goes on the campus. So I was like, okay, so maybe it is a pretty, tougher job than it seems like, even though to me it seems like they're always just, driving around, looking at parking permits and writing parking tickets. But
Right.
it's,
Does your police force have their own substation on campus as well?
yes.
Yeah, that's how mine is.
Yeah, and then they also, just talking about general security on campus, other than having them around, we have these little, like, emergency phone call pole things that are, like, in each parking lot. There's probably like 5 or 6 of them on campus. They have a big blue light on top of them. You can go up to them and you can
Yeah, we
hit
got those.
the emergency button, and it'll put you right through to the dispatch, whatever, which is kind of neat.
We've got those too. Yeah, they're helpful. I think this discussion helps us get into our next topic of, just carry on campus in general. But it seems to me that, campus security is meant to keep, like, whether it be a police force or whatever, it's meant to keep the students safe. But a lot of the times when you hear the topic of campus carry come up, like, and campus carry just means that individuals who are, have permits or the necessary they meet the state's requirements to legally carry a firearm, are able to carry a firearm on campus. And typically the security forces on those campuses are very opposed to those measures. So that always, is intriguing to look at.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird the way they word it. They don't really word it. I guess since the school is already anti-gun, they aren't going to word it to make the students want to support it. And so when they send out memos about mentioning concealed carry, they don't realize that the students don't realize that the people being able to conceal carry have already gained their concealed carry license through the state and have already gone the background check and have already done the qualifications and all that. They just make it seem as if once this is approved, any student can just carry a gun secretly on campus, and that's the way they portray it. And so, of course, everyone's going to be against that because they don't want just random people carrying guns in their backpacks or on their persons.
Yeah, and even though I'm not in college, like I said last week, I'm a senior in high school. I could almost see what the like a university or a small town college could go with that because I mean, at least around here, there's a bunch of rednecks around here. And rednecks like to fight occasionally. Caleb, I don't know if you've seen a bunch of fights on the campus or not. I'm sure there's been a few. But, I think they'd also be afraid of things would escalate way too quickly. Whether it be, hey, a fist fight throws down, then all of a sudden somebody gets shot. I'm not saying that would possibly happen. I'm just saying I think in the school's eyes, I think that's one of the scenarios that they could probably think through and be like, oh, no, that's why we're not going to do it.
Well, there's a lot of those things that come up, and people say that's something that's quoted often about, escalation and people getting pissed off, whether it's a disgruntled professor or a disgruntled student or whatever. They say that, but the fact of the matter is on the student aspect, for the most part, if you're over 18, I think that these individuals who choose to carry should demonstrate a level of responsibility that's, matching
Right.
of their decision to carry. And just because they're students or whatever, we have students that act like, they act very irresponsibility, and that's fine. But if they're going to be choosing to carry a firearm, I think they're demonstrating a level that's higher than that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, hopefully we can always hopefully.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, I can see the caution for it, even if you do have a university that's, for all other reasons pro-gun, has no, real issue with guns, but it's still definitely a big liability. You have a bunch of kids who are, a bunch of hot-headed guys who are in their 20s, and you throw guns in the mix. It could end badly. I don't think it would. I don't think it. Like you said, person who carries is going to have a bit higher, respect for it. Hopefully, and by even that's even proven just in general by carrying. You don't hear about people who can still carry going crazy, and just shooting someone just because they're mad or something like that. It's very rare. So I mean, there is a little bit more liability there, but it doesn't matter because it's our right and we should have it. And so that's all there is to it.
This is what Jacob was talking about earlier, about how these people are already licensed to carry. So Jacob, you've got your carry license. It doesn't just because you've got your carry license, you can carry anywhere else except for your university, pretty much. And so you're still the same person whether or not you're going to the store or you're going to class. You don't change who you are at that point in time.
Exactly. So in order to get my permit, and as for many other states, you have to do a background check. They fingerprint me, and there's a shooting qualification here in Nevada. And then I have my Utah permit as well. So I have permits in multiple states I can carry, and I think there's 30-something states I can carry a firearm in. And on campus, all that goes away. I'm automatically deemed an irresponsible person just because that's the way they want to view it. And it's very unfair, and I just don't know why they view it that way. And it's very restricting as well because since they don't allow any firearms on campus, I'm unable to carry a firearm to school. So the whole drive to school, I'm unarmed. And then from when I leave school until I go home, I'm unarmed as well. And so usually I plan my day to go straight to school and then straight home. That way I can put my firearm on myself and then go about my day. Because if I go to school and then go and do other stuff throughout the day, I'm not going to be able to have a firearm on me just because the school doesn't allow it.
That's right. You said that. I guess I missed it. That you can't have it in your car even.
Right. So they
Wow.
view no guns on campus as the parking lot as a part of the campus as well.
Wow. What's the punishment for having a gun?
I haven't looked into it, and I hope to never find out. But I just don't know. I think they would view it as a firearms charge on campus, and they would probably prosecute. I've heard them say that they would prosecute as strictly as they can.
Right, and even despite the legal repercussions, you'll be faced if the school's already blatantly anti-gun, you're probably like facing expulsion and those type of penalties. So no matter
when
what, lose.
It's not worth
Yeah.
it. That's what I was
They've
wondering.
stated that before, that you would be expelled and prosecuted to the fullest extent. And with that expulsion, you lose all of your credits. And so for me, I graduate in December, and so all
Exactly.
those
Yeah, so
credits
it's not
that
worth
I've
throwing
gained, they would
away.
all be gone.
Not worth throwing away 4 years of your life and no telling how many thousands of dollars.
Right.
And backtracking, could set you back a decade in your life. So,
Yeah, I can see how that goes. And y'all were saying how the whole no firearms permitted on campus. Well, I know what I'm about to say is pretty petty compared to what y'all are talking about. But even with high schools, it's kind of ridiculous. Like when Dad was in high school, you could go in and during hunting season, he said a lot of kids bring their rifles and leave them in the principal's office and be like, "Hey, look, I'm going hunting after school. I'm just gonna leave this here till I leave." And I think it's kind of ridiculous now where they'll go. This year I've been searched twice. My truck, they've asked for the keys of my truck and asked to look inside of my truck for a firearm, a knife, anything that could be viewed as a weapon, which is ridiculous in my opinion. So
Yeah, the idea of gun-free zones on campuses, whether or not that's for a parent coming to drop their children off or whatever, it's not there to. This is just the whole argument about gun-free zones in general, and I think we've talked about that, how they don't actually deter criminals, but they deter, us, law-abiding citizens. So, yeah, differentiality from when your dad was in high school between now is completely different. You have people getting in trouble for chewing Pop-Tarts and other cookies in the shapes of guns, so it's very different.
yeah, and I remember I think it was my junior or sophomore year. I had a buddy who was going hunting after school, and he was like, "Look, I'm not gonna say anything," but he brought his rifle. He had it in a case, locked up, ammo was completely separate, all that stuff, and he had it behind the seat of his truck. His back seat of his truck would fall down, kind of like mine. I've got a Chevy 2500 that the back seats will completely fold down. I've got like an 8-inch gap or so that I could put something behind the seat. And when it was Dad's truck, he actually kept a Mosin Nagant that we had cut down, I think, from the regular 24-inch barrel to an 18-inch barrel, and put a huge flash suppressor on it and all that. But basically what he did is he did that, and we have what we call as a rent-a-cop. And it's a security guard that sits in a little outpost right where you pull in and out of the parking
I
lot.
know exactly who you're talking about. Is it
And
still that is it still that same older gentleman with the white hair?
yeah, yeah. And what's funny is he does more harm than good. He has caused 3 wrecks this year.
I don't know. I remember people whining about that even before I left. It hadn't gotten bad when I left, but it was getting there.
Oh,
It
it's
seems like there's some institutions, going beyond that. There's some schools in certain school districts that even don't even allow kids to wear shirts that are pro-gun or expressing political statements towards firearms because it just seems like they do have an agenda. And I hate to say that, but in certain cases they don't want. It just seems that way.
Yeah, it seems to me that it's not even necessarily anti-gun; it's anti-rights. School zones are. And
yeah,
I mean, not necessarily as much as college, but like public schools definitely so. Like free speech, even all of that kind of stuff is definitely it's like
yeah,
prison. It's like prison, but you get treated decent and you get to go home at the end of the day.
yeah. Pretty much. You get to leave at
And
3:30.
you get to learn. You are getting something from the experience. You're learning, hopefully,
Well, yeah, hopefully. Um,
depending on what public school you're in.
So just recently, the reason I wanted to talk about campus carry is this past week we had a development here in the state of Texas where our state senate has been debating a campus carry measure, which would basically allow anyone who already holds a concealed carry permit to carry on campus, and that's anywhere on campus. Previously, you could carry on areas that weren't considered buildings, but the definition of building was very loose, and so on. And there's been a lot of opposition to this, especially from our big state school system, which is UT, University of Texas, to the point where the chief of Austin Police said, well, bills like this would turn potential sexual assault victims into murder victims. And I don't understand that mentality and how that makes sense, just because.
Yeah, I think that's complete opposite. At the school I went to in Northern Nevada, University of Nevada, Reno, there was actually a case, a girl who was a concealed carry permit owner. I don't know how to word that. Anyway, she had a concealed carry permit, and she couldn't carry on campus. And while walking to her car one night, she was actually held up at gunpoint and raped in the school parking garage. And she sued the school because she couldn't carry on campus. And all they did was settle out of court. They didn't change the law legislation at all. They just said basically, sorry, that's unfortunate it happened to you, but we're not going to change the law. And I believe she did get some sort of monetary amount, but no amount of money can change what happened to her.
Right, that's a
And it's unfortunate that they just said, oh, well, I mean, that's boo-hoo, you can't do anything about it,
What do you think the motivation is behind the schools not wanting that thing? Do you think it's liability, like an insurance policy type of thing? Or do you think they just don't want guns on campus for just, emotional reasons?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of illogical fear behind guns, and people don't know. And so when I meet people, I try to teach them guns, and I show them, how it is safe and how it is dangerous, but if you do it in a safe manner, it can be very fun and enjoyable, and there's lots to do with firearms. But yeah, I just think they're afraid of them, and they don't want anything to do with them on campus, because I believe if they did allow concealed carry, the liability would fall back on the concealed carry permit carriers, and so I don't think the school has anything to do with it.
I want to hit on something you mentioned, Lee. You said about carrying like in certain buildings, stuff like that. I completely forgot about when we passed this new legislation last summer about the carrying on having guns on campus and everything. It actually allowed you can carry a gun on campus, but it can't be within a school safety zone. So pretty much, if you're on the sidewalk walking through campus, they can't technically probably get away with it. Because especially where our campus is located, it's like in the town square the town that it's in is literally the town square is like they're like a 2-minute walk. Like me and my friends will go eat on the square and we won't even drive. It's that close. So you could technically say, I'm cutting through campus to get to the other side of the city or whatever to go over here to eat or something, and technically they couldn't say anything to you, I guess, because the chief of police sent an email about it actually last summer. I'm reading it right now. And so it said like, all right, the school safety zones include all buildings and facilities and resident halls, athletic and recreation facilities, and that's it. So, but it doesn't say anything about if you're on the sidewalk, walking through campus.
Right, and it's so contrary to what the mentality behind people who want to carry on campus is. It's not like people who want to carry on campus are the types of people who are going to be going out and committing crimes with those firearms. I as an individual who go to college, I want to carry on campus just because I think that crime is universal and that there's always that potential of something happening to me wherever I am, and I spend quite a bit of my time on my campus. So that means that I have to spend quite a bit of my time unarmed. That's like
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Yeah, I completely agree with that sense. Even though I don't go or live or really participate in any kind of college campus or anything as of yet. Being a senior in high school. But I wanted to touch on something Jacob said earlier. He was saying how the universities just don't know how things would go. I think that's the big key with them wanting to keep concealed carry and all that away. It's the factor of not knowing. I think if they had any sort of recollection of how it would go, I think they'd be more lenient and more kind of like, hey, let's give this a shot. But nobody's ever really tried it. So
there are 2 states that in our country that have campus carry in place, and they don't see very many. Like, it's not like their campuses are violent places that are crazy and just overrun with people running around with guns everywhere.
Yeah, and that's what's bad because I mean, like my campus, I really think that I believe my campus is a very safe campus just because of the people that go there in the area. So really, having people concealed carry is anybody ever gonna probably have to use their weapon on campus? Probably not. But I still want people to be able to do that. But then what's sad is a lot of places that are dangerous, like for example the lady that Jacob was talking about that was sexually assaulted in the parking lot. Those kind of places are usually in the big cities or something like that, and those are the places that are most anti-gun. They're the ones who most need it, and they're the ones it's gonna be hardest to get it passed for them.
So what can we do? I know that what, Jacob, you're fixing to graduate, I'm fixing to graduate, but like if we wanted to enact some sort of change on our campuses, what can we do? Like, do you think we can try to get as many people involved on campus, or is there
Right.
anything
Well,
you can do?
that's what Jobs, he said a question for the panel. Do you think students can get the right to change campus carry by themselves? I think it's possible, but very, very unlikely. I think the key to it is staff and faculty, because I mean, unless you have like a very large percentage of a student body, and even then, the university's just like, oh, we don't care. I mean, we'll just get rid of you and have new students coming in next year. They're just want the money, the tuition, and all that. So, well, I guess that would look bad for their reputation and everything. But still, I think the key to it is faculty and staff, and a large student body also. So those two groups of demographics of people in combination would help a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the staff. I think if we can get the students to realize that guns are good and they are a good thing to have on campus, if done in a proper manner, I think if just that's the way to go because us students are going to be the teachers in the future. And so it might not be this year that we see it change, but if we can just change the negative stigma behind firearms and that all of the negative stuff that the media and like movies and stuff instill in people our age, if we can just show them that guns are safe and can be carried in a responsible manner, then hopefully we can see change maybe 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line.
Right. Yeah. Because even if you do have this, if you have the support of the staff or the students, you can't have one without having the other. Because you could have the faculty wanting to, they really couldn't care less if people can still carry or whatever. But if they don't see any push for it, why do they care about passing it? Why do they care about going through the trouble of, writing up all the law for it or whatever, or anything like that? They're just like, okay, no one's interested in it. Why are we going to do it? So you have to have that, the large student body interest along with that support and to get it. So
What do you think about like student government associations and stuff like that? Because to me, I've always looked at student government as kind of like a puppet government, like where you see like dictators and they have like a puppet democracy, kind of.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's why we kind of already have that. A lot of campuses do have student councils for things like that. So you could definitely have
But do you
a
think
student.
that's like an actual route we could use to enact some change?
I mean, yeah, possibly, yeah, definitely, because if you can get in, if you can have like guess you could call it the student safety council or something like that. So, campus safety student council, and if you could have like a direct line from them from the student body to them to the chief of police and the dean or whatever of the school, it could definitely have some pull, definitely, most likely.
On my campus, I recently saw in the latest newsletter, they did send out a message about concealed carry and how there is a group that I was unaware of that is trying to spread concealed carry on campus. And so there is I guess, a group now that's pushing for that. But like you said, it is kind of a puppet thing. I think it's there just to say that it is there, but I don't know how much say that they really have in doing stuff.
I think ultimately it's going to go back to what we were talking about earlier about getting people interested in firearms, or just establishing at least a baseline for where this is what the reality is about firearms. Because right now the baseline for everyone who doesn't have experience with firearms is Hollywood, and I think that's the problem. So if we have like easily accessible clubs or whatever that could take people out to the range and stuff like that, I think over time we'll see a difference.
Yeah, and we just had G-Webs just mentioned, it's a good point, is alumni, people who've graduated from that school, they could definitely have an effect, because if the school sees that these people, want these laws, passed on campus allowing concealed carry and everything, and they're not going to pass them, they might not let their kids go to school there, and that could definitely have a future impact.
Right, and alumni do provide, I know a lot of people, that's a lot of grants and stuff are given through alumni. I mean, people donate thousands and thousands of dollars a year to the schools that they graduated from. So if we don't donate just because the school is anti-gun, then maybe they will be forced somewhat into becoming pro-gun just so that they can get those grants and that money to better the school.
And the other side of that coin is like, if these clubs or these organizations exist to get people into shooting and stuff, that kind of stuff, the alumni are going to be who's going to be paying for that. Even if the school says, okay, we're not going to fund that, you can reach out to alums and stuff like that.
Exactly. I get sponsored or anything like that. It'd be great.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I know it didn't get passed, but I know Georgia and a few other states. I can't remember. I think it was a year, 2, 3 years ago. I can't remember. We're looking into even like. Well, I mean, this goes along with the whole concealed carry on campus thing. Professors or teachers carrying on campus.
No, we did get something passed through that.
Oh, we did?
The same bill that passed last summer. There's something about it that allowed the school boards to vote if they could have firearms in their in the facilities. And I think actually here in Gainesville, the city near us, the big city near us, I think 1 or 2 of the schools were considering like they are going to have a safe.
Yeah.
And they were going to have ARs in there actually, like 1 or 2 ARs, like have like a Colt. I think they were going to have like Colt 6920s, something like that.
Yeah.
ARs. I don't know if anybody went through with it or what happened. I haven't really researched it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm pretty, because Dad, and this kind of also goes along with the whole media thing. I think if teachers and teachers for me, because I'm still in high school, but professors or anything like that were able to conceal carry, what would you think? Would you think it would change student body demeanor? Like, do you think students would become more timid, or? Because I know personally I wouldn't become more timid knowing that my teacher has a concealed carry, but I can see I've got friends that aren't necessarily anti-gun, they're just kind of on the fence.
Right, it's to their eyes, and
yeah.
I mean, really, as far as being like more respectful and that, I don't think so. Unless they're just uneducated about guns in general, that might make them scared. But I see that as a very small percentage. I think that a teacher, that if they respect a teacher, they're gonna respect a teacher for who they are, not because they have a gun. Of course, the gun, I guess, having that will add to it, but I don't think it'd make that much of a difference. And, of course, I think it'd be best to have them concealed and not tell the students about it anyways. They would tell students, they'd be like, there are teachers who are carrying firearms on this campus. They're not going to go around telling you who it is.
Yeah, because most people who carry concealed, no one else around them knows. Like, most people that I'm acquainted with, nobody knows that I do carry a firearm when I do. And so same thing with teachers. I don't think it should be announced. I think the students should know that teachers are allowed to carry, but I don't think they should tell what teachers.
And then it'd be nice if they had like a training exercise, a program that they could not necessarily be forced to do. I think it'd be highly recommended. Maybe, I guess you could say forced. It's really up to the school, but that was funded by the school, and the teachers who were selected to carry a gun, or who wanted to rather, I think it should be open to any of them who felt comfortable about doing it. They would all go and take a qualification course, whatever, and practice high intensity shooting situations. Because if they're at school, that's what they're going to be in. If they ever use their firearm, they're going to be around a bunch of kids, and you want them to be prepared, obviously. But you don't want to put stipulations on it. But at the same time, I would want somebody. If I was sending my kid to school, I have no problem with a teacher having a firearm. I just want to make sure that they know how to use it, and in that situation.
Yeah, and it was one of those things when they were reviewing and all that bill and stuff like that. Dad would jokingly, mom's a teacher, she's a special education teacher, but he would jokingly say, you know, hey, if somebody breaks in, mom, just open the cabinet and grab the two Uzis out of it, and you'll be fine. Um, but and you know, but I think another thing. This is kind of veering a little bit off topic, but I know another thing that would probably help with the whole getting concealed carry thing passed is to see more good things happen with guns. You know, everything in the media is, oh, well, somebody got shot last night. Oh, somebody, you know, somebody was raped, somebody was murdered, something like that, and it usually always has to deal with a gun. It's kind of ridiculous. But I think if the media would put more, hey, you know, Joe down at the 7-Eleven saved, you know, 2 or 3 people's lives from somebody trying to rob the store because he's a concealed carry
Well,
permit holder, you know.
well, that's why we're
Um,
here too. You know, you got to think about it. Like we're the new media, so you can't rely on the
yeah,
media for doing that. They're not going to because they're going to push their agenda. So like,
yeah,
yeah, that's definitely a good motivation to do your own media and get out there and let people know about it. And
Yeah,
that's kind of what we're
ultimately,
doing here. That's kind of part of the purpose for why we're doing this podcast. You know.
yeah,
very true.
ultimately, I think that we kind of agree that firearms can be a very empowering thing to fight against potential crimes and stuff like that, rather than instigating potential crimes. But let's go ahead and move on. The last thing that and begin wrapping up. Um, One last thing I wanted to quickly touch on here was the ATF recently announced a proposal about banning the M855 green tip 5.56 ammunition along the grounds that we saw earlier this year about the 7 and 6 ban and that kind of stuff. So this is pretty ridiculous. The premise being that with the prevalence of AR style pistols and that this green tip ammunition has been used in these AR style pistols, that they can now be considered armor penetrating ammo designed for pistols and that it would fall under an earlier ban, is what they're saying.
I think this is complete malarkey, to be perfectly honest, because in my opinion, the quote unquote AR pistols are not pistols. You know, I think, you know, by law, technically, yes, they're a pistol. You know, they've got the under a certain length barrel. I can't remember what it is in the state of Georgia. But yes, technically they're a pistol, but still, I don't consider if you've got, and you know,
It
this
was
is,
it was a firearm designed for rifle
yeah,
platforms.
you can't. It's kind of like saying, you know, take a smart car. It's like saying you're gonna take a smart car and put high octane gas into it and say, oh, it's a race car now.
It's a Formula One car. I got a
Yeah,
Formula One race car.
it's an F1 car now.
Yeah,
It's that's the same. Like I think if you put it into that perspective for liberals and really extreme left wing, you know, extremists and stuff like that. I wouldn't say extremists, but you know, people that are anti-gun. If you put it in kind of that perspective, I don't think it'll change their mind, but it will also kind of be like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to agree with it, but I can see where you're coming from almost.
I don't
Um,
think that this has anything to do with liberal or conservative or Republican or Democrat, anything like that, because the fact of the matter is that this law or this proposed change to an interpretation of the law is based on nothing. And I think anyone across the aisle should be able to recognize that and say, well, no matter what our politics are, we want our legal system to be based on something that's credible and not just, people changing things on a whim. And I think that's the biggest issue here. Because
very,
at the base of it, it doesn't change anything. Like 223 or 5.56 fired out of even a pistol, like pistol length or AR pistol length barrel, will still penetrate soft armor. That's not the issue. It doesn't change anything. So
Right.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll kind of talk about my point of view on this. On this is like everybody's thinking it's a really bad thing, and in a way it is, but I think this can be great actually. And give us a really good opportunity to go on the offensive, and really just show everybody, how pointless, certain parts of the ATF are for stuff because of stuff like this, and it's just another chip at them. If we can, win this and the thing about the SIG brace and all that, it could really just, help, start returning our rights to us, that we've been taken by the NFA and all that.
Yeah, I
So I
think
mean,
that's the important thing because this is
positive
just
thing.
another arbitrary law that they're passing about something that they're uneducated on. I mean, they don't know the difference between M855 and then like actual armor penetrating rounds. Like, there's a big difference, and a lot of this is just going to ban. I mean, if it does go through, I could see it potentially getting rid of just like the PMC X-Tac 62 grain stuff, and that's not armor penetrating rounds. I mean, it may be marketed as that, but that's not what it really is, and just they're ignorant to what the rounds and what all of this gun stuff really is, and they're just making um, uneducated laws, and it's very unfair. And I wish that they would really know what they're talking about before they legislate on it.
I'd
Yeah,
like to see a lot of people get
I
involved
can.
on this because this is something that if we can come together and protest this towards the ATF, I think that it's going to be good all across the gun community, obviously, but especially for younger people. I think that's good because a lot of times we hear that we can't do anything, that we just have to roll over and take it. But like if we can actually set up some organizations or write our representatives, get together and do this kind of thing, then I think it's going to be very inspiring. And along those lines, there was a Gun Channels member who actually set something up, and he took the initiative to offer up a free magazine, an AR-15 magazine, to whoever is the first person to join a Second Amendment group and show proof of that along the lines of this recent stuff coming up. So I think that's excellent, and I think that's good incentive to join any Second Amendment foundation or anything like that or group.
Yeah, I think that's a great incentive to yeah, and I guess we overall we probably shouldn't have to need incentive because hey, it is our rights. But it would definitely get people that are kind of on the fence be like, hey, I can get something out of this. Besides rights and stuff. Hey, I'm getting something out of this. But I just wanted to touch on what Jacob was going on is how people market things saying they're armor piercing. Well, I don't think they quite realize. Yes, this is a pistol length um, firearm we're talking about. So your AR pistols or one of your quote unquote AR pistols. Um, but I've got two Mosin Nagants, and they're 6.2. I can't even talk right now. 7.62 by 54R, and it's steel core ammo. I have put numerous amounts of rounds through AR-500, steel, even at 200-300 yards with that. So I think it's kind of ridiculous saying, "Hey, we're getting rid of green tip because you can shoot it out of quote unquote pistols."
and they know what they're doing. It's not the fact that they honestly believe that because they're worried about it killing cops. It's because they're getting pushed. They're getting pushed from the current administration, and it's all political, agendas being pushed,
Yeah.
and that's why. So it is what it is. But I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely. It's not based on anything. So that's going to be, there's going to be a follow-up chat to this that Gun Websites is going to be running on Gun Channels, and it's going to be specifically about this M855 stuff that's coming up right now and what we can do as individuals to prevent this from happening now and prevent anything like this from happening in the future. So if you're interested in that, you can join in and watch, or you can participate, and that'd be awesome to have the input there. Other than that, I think this is a good chat. Did anyone have anything they wanted to say?
just tune back in next Sunday. We'll probably be doing 8 p.m. Eastern again. That seems to be working out pretty good. That's when we get a lot of the other West Coasters in, and hopefully draw a little bit larger audience. But that should be it.
For
So
me, I just wanted to point out I finally started a YouTube channel. It's a Battle Born Outdoors, and so I'll be posting some gun stuff on there. I just have a video of like I just have Tech Trigger and then a MP5 video on there, but I'll definitely be getting more content on there regularly.
right on, link it in the gun channels. We'll check it out and give you some
Yeah.
support.
All right. Appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.